Looking for a problem.
Catherine Delahunty.
There you go, William.
Nā koutou katoa and tēnā koutou, Mr Speaker. I'm rather amazed that this bill has been put on the statutes at this time. I'm rather surprised. It's an imitation of Australia, and it's, I don't know who asked for this imitation. I'm not sure who dreamed this up and why it was necessary. It seems to me deeply political and lacking in a fundamental approach to the ideas of refugees, and a breach of the culture that we've always had in this country. And in that sense, International Refugee Day next week will not be a day for celebration. It would be good to be able to celebrate this because we have had a proud tradition. We have been a country known around the world for a very positive attitude towards citizens who are vulnerable. And this bill is the breach of the consensus, and as many others have already said, there was an opportunity to do it differently, instead of which we've got this, what I can only describe as a paranoia and a punitive approach. The Green Party has not said in our speeches that this could never, ever, ever happen. What we are saying is that a mass arrival of 30 people is possibly within the capability of this country to deal with respect. We could actually cope with 30 people arriving. There's also been some really interesting speeches about how anyone can get here on a boat because it's not impossible, and that many citizens in the last 1,500 years arrived here on boats. True, but they arrived here on boats with a great deal of skill. So, for example, the Pacific navigators who came from islands right across the South Pacific were not stumbling around in the dark. They knew what they were doing. They were skilled navigators, and those waka could do the most extraordinary things because of the understanding of the area, because they were locals. And Aotearoa was part of the local Pacific track. Well, they found their way through experimentation, and they were skilled sailors. But refugees from Afghanistan don't have the same experience. They don't come from the same. They come via in many cases parts of Asia where they are, as Jan said, they are utterly unwelcome and badly treated, and they are vulnerable to people who do not have either the skills of the original Polynesian navigators or the skills of Captain Cook, or the access to the cruise ship arrivals, where people arrive here with the best in terms of shipping and the best in terms of sailing opportunities or cruise ship management. We're talking about refugees here, and we're talking about doing to them what some people like to do to people who are criminals. We're actually making the leap from refugee to criminal in this bill. And so the most abused in other countries will become abused again here. And that's the Australian model, and it's nothing to be proud of. At the Greens AGM, Senator Richard Di Natale from the Australian Greens talked about this problem and the way in which the Australians have failed to deal with it, and how much cost, protest, meltdown, international disgrace and human misery can occur when you don't deal with an issue properly. And that's what the Australians have done. They've just completely failed. And it comes out of a tradition in Australia called, which I remember as an older person, as the White Australia policy. You know, they don't have a tradition of respect for difference. And that has come to roost in the most ugly way. And they're abusing Nauru and Papua New Guinea and using those places as dumps for human beings. And we're going down that track. We're talking about going down that track through this bill, and people are acting as if it's somehow protecting the vulnerable. And I think it's just a disgrace, as somebody else said. The breach of the consensus means that we can't hold our heads up anymore. I spend a lot of time talking to the taxi drivers, some of whom came here through some of the most horrific experiences. And fascinatingly, these guys actually thought this country would be better than this. And they asked for this country to be better than this, and it can be better than this, but not through this bill. And when you listen to these guys' stories, it's just not that funny. It's just not that hilarious to be a refugee. It's not that much of a joke to have sat, as Jan found a woman, when Jan Logie went to a camp recently in Thailand, on the border of Burma and Thailand, and met people who'd been there for 26 years and who had no hope of a better life. And so we're going to go for the camp culture? That's our solution?
Order. Time's expired.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Simon O'Connor.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to rise